The showrunner for Netflix The Witcher, Lauren Hissrich, was asked if she was worried about screwing up The Witcher as badly as Game of Thrones got screwed up towards the end, and her response is so amazing. Okay, now, I know I said quite a few times that I find it obnoxious that people comparing Game of Thrones to Netflix's The Witcher, especially since the source material for The Witcher was around before Game of Thrones ever was. Even the first book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, a Game of Thrones. So it's silly to say The Witcher is copying off Game of Thrones because The Witcher existed first. Unless... what if the author has a time machine? Okay, I'll give you it's a possibility that he somehow went into the future, saw what George did, and then created the Witcher universe. My back just cracked. That being said, I'm not the one that was comparing Game of Thrones to The Witcher. It was during an interview when Lauren was asked, are you worried about The Witcher series concluding in a terrible way like Game of Thrones did with the extreme fan backlash? And her response was incredibly reassuring. So if you're heartbroken over Game of Thrones still and how it ended, one, don't be. The situations are completely different. With Game of Thrones, the showrunners, D&D, one, pompous assholes with their heads up their ass, but also they didn't have the final 2 books to do the final season, so they only knew the destinations of certain characters via the author George, and then they had to fill in the journey, and that's not where they excel. D&D, they excel by adapting source material, and since they didn't have those final 2 books, it just blew up in their face, and they weren't willing to admit that maybe they're not as good as they think they are without the help of an author's writings. But we're not talking about Game of Thrones in this video, even though we are. Lauren, with the Witcher TV series, the books are done. The main Witcher saga is done. They have the 2 prequel books, which they took heavily from for the first season, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, and then the books for the main Witcher saga are complete. So this isn't going to be a repeat of Game of Thrones, where towards the end of The Witcher, Lauren is going, hey Andre, could you finish the books or something? Dude's done. We know how it ends. And if you are also wondering, okay, is Lauren going to end the show like the books ended? Depending on how you felt about the end, you'll be happy. Or not. So here's what Lauren said about worrying that she's going to screw it up like Game of Thrones did. You know, of course these thoughts come to your head because we all constantly, as writers, you're in your head so often anyway, and you're always thinking, oh God, what if I mess something up? The truth is, though, that our plan is pretty solid. Not that that means that we know everything we're going to do over the next 2 or 3 or 7 or 20 years. What I mean is that we have the books. I don't feel the need to go beyond the existing books. They are a great source material. Andrzej Sapkowski has written all of them. There's a natural ending to them, and I feel as long as we stick that landing, which is the ending of the books, then we'll be good. Yeah, so going back to the ending of the books, I know certain people's fate is a little ambiguous, so you might be upset wanting more of a concrete answer. Who's to say she doesn't give us more of a concrete answer? Because she's working very closely with the author, but she's going to try to keep the ending very similar, which I personally like. I like the ending of the Witcher series. Now, that's not to say she isn't going to make changes. Obviously, those of us that have read the books and then watched the first season know that character details were changed, certain events were different, dialogue and all that. There are changes from the books, but the core is going to remain the same, which I think is very important. And honestly, I don't think I've ever been a book purist. I actually really enjoy when the books are adapted into a different medium, seeing the differences and similarities. That's not to say just applaud it the entire time and go, oh my God, that's amazing, that's amazing, that's amazing. No, it's fun to look at the differences between the source material and what's put out, the new format it's in, and to look at it and go, oh my gosh, you changed that, that's really cool. Or to go, ooh, you changed that and it did not make that story better, dude. And to me, it's not a infuriating fuck you thing, how dare you mess with the books I love. It's a, how are you choosing to interpret this, and do I agree with you or not? That's fun to me. I like comparing and contrasting. I know that's not for everyone, and it does seem to trigger certain people that love something and they only want praise. I think all of us have experienced that person where we love a show and we criticize it, and then someone goes, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And it's like, no, I do like it. That's why I watch it. And I criticize it. Because when you love something, you should want it to be better. No, I'm not saying if you have a significant other, you love them, just criticize the fuck out of them and try to make them change. But you should want them to be the best version of themselves without being, I guess, an asshole. But we're not comparing people to shows because that's just, that's weird. So yeah, if you love something, you should be willing to criticize it, but also support it and say the positives. You should be able to see both. If you blindly just love something, that's when it goes down the shitter. Honestly, look at The Walking Dead. People bitched and moaned and quit the show in record numbers, and then finally AMC got the hint, okay, we need to make changes. And they did. They got a new showrunner, and The Walking Dead is fantastic now. It went back to being good. I didn't think that was going to happen. And if enough people hadn't bitched and moaned about it, they would have never made a change. Which brings me to my next point. I've said this in a few of my other Witcher videos. The showrunner, Lauren, is very down to earth. She's very humble. She's very intelligent. And she's very receptive to fans. If you go on Twitter, she'll interact with you. If you go on Reddit, she'll interact with you. She does ask me anything. She's just very open to fan responses. Now, that doesn't mean she's going to bend over and do everything we say, but she's listening. She's not going, fuck you, I'm the big wig here, I know what I'm doing. No, she wants to hear from us and make little changes. And they are making little changes in season 2 based off of response and criticism to the first season. And I will say it again, it takes a very humble, down-to-earth, intelligent person to be able to listen to fans, accept criticism, take that information and decide whether you want to use it or not, and not just completely bend over and do 100% fan service, but also not say, screw you, I'm the professional, I know better than you. And if you want to love Henry Cavill even more, he was actually asked about toxic fan base about The Witcher, and his response of, well, of course the fans are going to complain. Of course it's okay that they're vocal, that they're verbal about this. They love this. This is something they're passionate about. And yeah, it hurts sometimes to hear these negative things, but it's still really awesome and they have every right to complain. I don't know why that just throws certain people into a tizzy. Honestly. But you know, that could also be different personalities. I have a tendency to always tear down something I love, so I make fun of Texas because some people know why. I make Catholic jabs because my family's Catholic. It's just, you make fun of what is a part of you, or you criticize what's a part of you because you love it, or you're comfortable with it, or it's part of your identity. So, I don't know. For other people, that's something that's very uncomfortable and it invalidates who they are. So it's just different personalities. So if you were worried that The Witcher is going to drop the ball like Game of Thrones did, if you're worried that Lauren is going to turn into D&D, she has the source material. It's complete. She wants to use from it. She is going to change bits and pieces. Of course, she's listening to fans and she really wants to do this material justice. So I would say if you're still feeling burned from Game of Thrones, don't carry that over to The Witcher, and just realize a lot of people that are passionate about this project are working on it, and they don't have their heads in a certain place that I mentioned earlier. But I want to hear your thoughts. Do you actually like that she's going to go with the ending from the books? Are you upset that she has changed things from the books already? Are you looking forward to those changes further with the following seasons? Were you a fan of season 1 or are you not? Like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts about Lauren's response down below.